Welcome back to our channel, soap fans. Today is a fantastic day to dive deep into the messy, explosive, and ever-changing world of Port Charles. We have a massive amount of ground to cover regarding some truly shocking canvas shifts, so let us get right into the heart of the drama. I need to talk about Jason Morgan. And I need to talk about him right now because the structural foundation of his character is currently undergoing a seismic shift that we cannot ignore. Anyone who understands the rhythm of General Hospital knows that Jason is not just a character, he is an institution. He is the stoic enforcer, the man who absorbs the pain of the canvas so others do not have to. But what we are witnessing right now in the aftermath of the WSB crisis is a fundamental rewiring of his motivations, his romantic future, and his entire legacy. Let me say this clearly. The fallout from Britt Westbourne being jailed for the WSB case has completely shattered the trajectory of Jason's life, and the writers are making some incredibly dangerous, fascinating, and infuriating choices to pick up the pieces. Can we be honest about this Britt situation for a second? I am sorry, but this did not work for me on a romantic level, even if it worked on a tragic one. Jason is currently trying to move past the profound grief of losing Britt to the prison system, but we have to look at the mechanics of how she ended up there and why Jason is entirely justified in walking away. Jason took the fall for Ross Cullum regarding that brutal shooting incident specifically to protect Rocco Falconeri. He threw himself on the sword, as Jason always does, putting himself in the absolute worst possible situation, the wrong place at the wrong time, because Britt insisted that he put her first. Britt demanded to be the center of his universe, and by dragging him into her chaotic orbit, she inadvertently handed him over to the WSB. And this is where the writing actually shines, because it earns Jason's resentment. Jason risked absolutely everything to save Britt. He sacrificed his freedom, his safety, and most importantly, his time with his son, Danny. Am I supposed to pretend that Jason, a man whose entire moral code is built on silent sacrifice, is just going to easily forgive the fact that his loyalty was exploited? No. He is going to harbor a deep, quiet bitterness. The fact that Jason only secured his release because Jocelyn Jacks, his goddaughter, a young woman who should never have to leverage her own life for his, had to strike a desperate deal with the WSB is humiliating for a man like Stone Cold. Jocelyn saving him flips the script on his protector complex, leaving him indebted and deeply fractured. He is not going to run back to Britt after this. The trust is broken and the cost was simply too high. So, the massive question hanging over the writer's room right now is this: who on earth is going to capture the heart of the mob's most lethal enforcer? Jason is notoriously impossible to pair up. He requires a female lead who can cut through his silence without becoming completely consumed by his darkness. There are very few leading ladies on the current canvas who possess the sheer gravitational pull required to stand toe-to-toe with Stone Cold. The writers know this, which is why they have been throwing things at the wall in a desperate panic to see what sticks. But we need to talk about the failure. We need to talk about the absolute, unmitigated disaster that was the Anna Devane pairing. I mean, honestly, what were the writers thinking? When Jen Sidwell first debuted and the show decided to lock Jason and Anna in a holding cell together, I was willing to see where the tension went. But then they kissed. They actually kissed in that cell, and the visceral backlash from the audience was entirely justified. It was gross. It was fundamentally structurally flawed. I am not calmly reviewing this. I am telling you, as someone who respects character Bibles, that this was a slap in the face to decades of established history. Because let us not forget the ghost that haunts this pairing, Robin Scorpio Drake. Jason had a profound, life-altering, first love romance with Robin. Anna is Robin's mother. You do not just erase that generational boundary for the sake of a cheap sweeps week shock. The writers took the easy way out, relying on the surface-level chemistry of two veteran actors while completely ignoring the emotional truth of the material. It felt manipulative. It felt lazy. It made my skin crawl because it violated the core tenets of who these people are to each other. Thankfully, that catastrophic experiment seems to have been aborted. but it leaves a massive romantic vacuum in Jason's life. Naturally, whenever Jason is single, the ghost of Elizabeth Baldwin enters the chat. The Liason fan base is one of the most passionate in soap history, and for good reason. Jason and Liz share Jake Weber. They share a tortured, beautiful, unfinished history. A massive part of me believes that they have never been given a truly fair, uninterrupted shot at a mature romance. The narrative potential of putting them back together now, as older, wiser parents, is incredibly rich. But the timing is completely wrong, and the writers know it. Liz is currently trapped in a suffocating, complex web with Rick Lansing. Rick is back, manipulating the emotional landscape as he helps Alexis navigate Molly's crisis, and his toxic, undeniable pull on Liz is a story that needs to play out. Add to that the fact that Dante Falconeri is waiting in the wings, constantly hovering as a potential romantic anchor for Liz, and her schedule is entirely booked. Throwing Jason into a crowded triangle with Rick and Dante would just dilute Jason's return. Jason does not share well, and he does not do soapy romantic triangles where he has to fight for a woman's attention. He needs a clean slate. And that brings us to the most brilliant, overdue, and exciting casting news this show has delivered in months. Enter Serena Baldwin. The decision to bring Serena back to Port Charles, played by the Young and the Restless alum Kelly Kruger, is a stroke of absolute genius. I am genuinely thrilled about this because it injects a completely fresh face onto the canvas, while remaining deeply tethered to legacy history. Serena is not just a random newcomer, she is a genetic goldmine of storytelling potential. Think about the character DNA operating inside Serena Baldwin. She is the daughter of Scott Baldwin, meaning she has that inherent, sly, slightly manipulative survivor's instinct. She was raised by Lucy Coe, which guarantees she has an absolute spine of steel, a flair for the dramatic, and a fierce, unapologetic strength. Yet, she also carries the legacy of her birth mother, Dominique Baldwin, meaning beneath the cunning and the bravado, there is a core of pure, undeniable goodness and heart. Putting a woman with that specific, volatile cocktail of traits into Jason Morgan's orbit is a masterclass in character contrast. Serena will not be intimidated by his mob ties, she will not put up with his silence, and she will challenge him in ways Britt never could. It is an inspired choice, and I am already convinced she is going to breathe new life into this stagnant character. But all of this romantic speculation pales in comparison to the absolute bombshell the writers have just dropped on us. We need to talk about the road trip. We need to talk about why Jason really took Danny Morgan out of Port Charles, because this is the storyline that is going to set the entire canvas on fire. We were led to believe that Jason was taking Danny away for some much-needed father-son bonding. We thought Jason was trying to make up for the time he lost while playing WSB savior for Britt, but that was a lie. The revelation that Jason took Danny out of town specifically to introduce him to a secret lover and a never-before-seen son is the kind of tectonic shift that makes me remember why I love this genre. It is a massive, canvas-altering shock. Let me unpack why this is so completely unhinged and yet so incredibly compelling. Jason Morgan, the man who supposedly lives his life as an open book of loyalty to the Corinthos and Quartermain families, has been hiding an entire second life. He has another child, a son. The implications of this are staggering. From a writing perspective, introducing a secret child is a massive gamble. It can feel like a cheap retcon if not handled with extreme care. But if you look at the years Jason was away, the gaps in his memory, the time spent operating under different identities or under the control of others, the narrative real estate exists for this to make sense. I am completely fixated on what this means for Danny. Imagine being Danny Morgan right now. You finally get your elusive, mythical father back. You go on a trip with him, thinking you are finally going to be the center of his world, only to have him pull the rug out from under you and introduce you to a brother you never knew existed. The psychological damage this is going to inflict on Danny is profound. This is going to breed resentment, jealousy, and a massive identity crisis. Danny is a Quartermain and a Morgan. He already carries the weight of 2 legacy families. Now he has to share his father's deeply fractured attention with a stranger. This changes everything. It changes how Carly will look at Jason. It changes how Sonny will trust him. It completely recontextualizes Jason's refusal to fully commit to the women in Port Charles. He hasn't been emotionally unavailable just because he is stone cold. He has been guarding a massive, life-altering secret. This is the kind of storytelling that demands attention. It is messy, it is emotionally violent, and it is going to force Jason out of his comfortable, silent corner. The writers have finally given Jason a story that does not revolve around saving someone else, but rather dealing with the explosive consequences of his own hidden life. I am furious at the manipulation, but I am absolutely captivated by the execution. Port Charles is never going to be the same, and frankly, it is about time.